extremely rare. Real implants. Now, there are physical objects that show up in people that don't have anything to do with aliens. And again, it's good hype, and it sells books, it sells TV, and so on. But the fact is that implants are extremely rare. I look at hundreds of X-rays every year, and I rarely find anything on these abductees that indicates to me that it's an actual quote-unquote implant from the alien phenomena.
Okay, so let's get back then to this missing time. I want to talk about that for just a second. So, if a person is taken out of their car, is time stopped? Are they taking a snippet of time, and that car is in the exact same position when they're reinserted back into the car? Or is that car driving down the road by itself and they reinsert them later down the road?
Your questions are brilliant. They really are. And I like it because you're so precise. There is two possibilities there. One is what you're hinting at, and the other one is no. And the reason I say that is because it could be one of two. There is a possibility that time has been altered or tampered with. That possibility does exist. And since I don't know all and see all, I may be off on this. The other answer is a pretty reasonable answer. And the pretty reasonable answer, which I like to go with first, which doesn't mean it's the only answer, is simply that they simply have picked you up, and I'll give you a case in point here. A lady, one of our abductees here in Houston years ago, had that missing time. And I said, so what period of time were you missing? She says, well, that's the problem. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, an elderly gentleman found my truck on his ranch, parked out on the side of the road. And I said, I beg your pardon? She said, he found my truck parked on the side of the road. And she said, then I saw him walking up to it. He says, are you okay? And she said, sure, I just fell asleep in my truck here. He said, fell asleep in your truck? The truck's been here for 3 days, lady.
Wow.
And here you are in it. So the point is the truck was still there. Mm-hmm. Again, it doesn't mean all cases are like this, but it means, it suggests to me that heavily that many of these cases that you're still there. For instance, if you're taken in a real abduction and let's say you're in your bed's still there. You're gone, and your mate knows you're gone in many cases, or they find the bed's lighter, or they feel movement on the bed and they can't figure out why because they can't move. And the alien does this to create, number one, if forgetfulness on the part of your partner, and two is so that they won't remember and you won't remember. Because if you remember anything about your events that are real, they made a mistake. And they know that.
If there are two people in a bed and the entity abducts one of them, have you ever found that they put the other person into a trance?
Oh, absolutely. This happens all the time. And I can give you a personal upfront circumstance for this. In my when I was a child, my first event was so traumatic, and I was conscious during almost all of my events, or at least parts of them. In my first event, I woke up, and that was the right word, because it wasn't a bad dream or anything like that. I was just stunned that there was somebody in my room, and I was standing there looking at it. And this is, I was 3.5, nearly 4 years old. But my event was so traumatic that the next night, I never told my parents anything, nothing. My parents put me between them the next night. They realized I was traumatized, but they couldn't figure out why. This is Midland, Texas, 1952. I mean, this is long time ago. So they placed me between them, and I was telling my mom this. She's 70-some years old, almost 80 years old, and she just stunned. She says, you can't remember all that. I said, I do. I said, Mom, you sleep like this. And said, Daddy sleeps on his right side with his left arm in this position. She says, oh, my gosh, how did you know? And I said, because I was there. And the next thing I noticed, I'm not asleep. I just started closing my eyes, and all of a sudden I sensed something in the room. I opened my eyes real quick, and there's the same cosmic airhead looking at me that was there the night before, and he's got a little friend or somebody that looks just like him with him. The amazing thing to me is that how any abductee can tell the difference between their handler. If there are a million of them out there, then they all look the same. If a million are out there, you could tell who your handler is instantly. Now, how that is, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But the point is, my mom and my dad are laying there asleep, and I am so frightened. I am not in a dream. I am not paralyzed. I take my little elbow and hit my daddy as hard as I can with my little arm repeatedly until I hurt my little elbow on his spine. I'm trying to wake my daddy up, and he can't wake up. So Mom and Dad never knew what happened, but I did, and then I disappeared. I'd get taken away.
Unbelievable. When that happens, did you see lights outside of your bedroom or your house before you were abducted?
Not in my case. Not in my case, and not in every case. In some cases, I did. There was a light involved, and so on. Again, I'll go to a personal case, conscious event. I hear, and this is all in my book, and I'm not hawking my book, but I honestly don't care if people buy it or not, because it probably isn't that good to read anyway. But it sure got a lot of stuff about the science and the medical and the investigative skills in it, and MUFON has actually taken some of that data, and they're putting it in their new investigator manual, because the stuff is so advanced and so great, they love it. But again, it may be just more technical for some people, and it may not be. I'm not to have a lot of fun, so to speak. The idea is to get the information out there so people can actually document their cases and come up with physical evidence. But in my case, at age 12, I was. This is the implant story. At age 12, it's 1960. I'm on Ohio Street, 1305 Ohio Street in Alamogordo, New Mexico, and there was I don't want to get ahead of your listeners here. Some of them know a lot, and some know almost nothing about this phenomenon.
Okay.
So I kind of don't want to leave anybody behind here. The alien leaves they leave a cover story. The cover story is designed to confuse you, make you think you had a bad dream, or had a hallucinatory experience that obviously wasn't true. The fact is, the hallucinatory part of it that's a screen memory isn't true. That's the part that's made up. That's the part they leave because they're covering up what it is that actually happened to you. That's why it's important in physical evidence cases, like in the one I'm going to describe here in a moment, that you find out that you look for physical evidence on yourself, because it just completely verifies your experience when you have physical evidence and you weren't asleep, so to speak. I mean, there was actually something there. In this case, the screensaver memory was I heard my mother's voice. And I heard her just as crystal clear, and I opened my eyes, and I said, what's weird? And Mom's telling me, go outside because there's a new star in the Pentine. Well, first of all, there's no such thing as a Pentine. That was a constellation. But what's weird is I know what the constellation is, and I know I need to go outside. 12 years old, and I can figure this out. So I realized there's something wrong with the story. First of all, Mom and Dad are on the other side into the house, and the doors are shut. It's 3 a.m. in the morning. How can I hear Mom as if she's right next to me? A, I'm either dreaming, or B, something else is going on. So I have to consider all of the possibilities. I know exactly what to do. I realize that's not Mom, but it sounds exactly like Mom, and everything's correct. Whoever mimics it did real well. I went outside and saw the most beautiful, bright, star-like thing I've ever seen in the New Mexico desert at night. And it is so brilliant. And then all of a sudden, I see it moving, and oh my gosh, it's getting brighter and brighter, and all of a sudden, bang. I mean, you remember the movie Phenomenon?
Yeah.
How that bright light came out and boom, hit him like that, and he was just out cold? Well, the next thing I noticed, it happened like that, and the next thing I noticed, I'm laying on a slab of about 11 degrees with my feet elevated. And the same cosmic airhead that's always been there is there again, and he's getting instructions from somebody on what to do. And what many abductees experience is they can actually hear these entities talk or think, so to speak, communicate, even without them moving their little mouths and so on. In fact, they can hear you do the exact same thing, and they can often shut you down so you can't hear them. What the entities don't know is that you can be trained to continue to hear, regardless of their suggestion. You can't hear us now. And you can still listen to their conversation. And as a result, I did. And I'm not even sure why I was able to do that at age 12. But the point is that at this point I start to cry because I hear the entity